For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. The president is checking in with other heads of state as the coronavirus pandemic rages on. Fox's John Decker has more from the White House.
The White House confirming that President Trump spoke today with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss the latest developments and efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic. The two leaders agreed to work closely together through the G20 to drive the international campaign to defeat the virus and reinvigorate the global economy. For a country spanning two continents ravaged by the pandemic, Russia has a relatively low number of confirmed cases, a little over 1,800. The number of new cases per day in Russia has been steadily increasing.
Field medical offices and hospitals are popping up throughout the U.S. Here's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal.
FEMA has been organizing the building of multiple field medical facilities across the country with help from the Army Corps of Engineers and National Guard members in different states. In California, one of the field medical centers is at the Los Angeles Convention Center, where Eric Garcetti is the mayor.
The field hospital will take the direction from the county of whether initially they had indicated it would be non-COVID patients. Now they're saying maybe it would be a place for COVID patients with less symptoms or lower symptoms.
Field hospitals and medical centers are being built really all over, including in Detroit, Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, and New York's Javits Center.
The American Civil Liberties Union and Planned Parenthood have filed lawsuits in Iowa and Ohio over access to abortions during the coronavirus crisis. Fox's Jeff Manasso.
Planned Parenthood and the ACLU are asking courts to overturn orders in Iowa and Ohio that temporarily halt non-essential or elective surgeries and procedures, including abortions, during the coronavirus pandemic, and directives that also close businesses and tell people to stay home. Planned Parenthood, which is also suing Texas for a similar directive, calls abortions essential procedures. Though in a statement, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds' office says the decision was made to help strategically use the state's stockpile of personal protective gear.
The Mississippi Senate has passed a bill to extend the state's Education Savings Account, or ESA, program, but an organization rooting for the bill says there are some seriously needed changes to make it acceptable. Bob Kellogg reports.
Senate Bill 2594 would extend the life of the program for special needs students. But Grant Callen of Empower Mississippi says the original version contained hurdles that would have been difficult, if not impossible, to overcome.
Most of the worst provisions in this bill were taken out. But I will say it's still got some really troubling components. But it's a tricky situation because we need this bill to renew the program.
The bill is now being taken up by the House. Callen says a lot of people would like to use the opportunity to close the program entirely or gut it so that it could serve only a few students.
We are working with House members to see if we can make some additional improvements to this bill that would keep from hurting families, but keep the option for families to participate in this great school choice program.
If the legislature fails to pass a bill to extend the ESA program, it will end on June 30th of this year. I'm Bob Kellogg.
The national average for a gallon of regular gasoline is pennies away from being $1.99 a gallon. Drivers were paying an average of $2.44 this time last month, $2.69 at this time last year. In final news this hour, a wildly popular quiz app is coming back to life. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
HQ Trivia making a surprise return, reportedly thanks to an anonymous investor. The live game show app, which abruptly shut down and laid off its entire staff after an investment deal fell through, is back with a new show dubbed Chapter 2. Fans receiving a push notification letting them know, many rejoicing online saying the reboot comes at a perfect time when many folks are stuck at home. Games will include a donation toward coronavirus-related efforts.
Find more news at onenewsnow.com. Thanks for listening.
The following is an encore presentation of MoneyWise.
If you don't have a rich uncle or a pot of gold at the end of your rainbow and you don't want to borrow, we don't recommend it. You have to pay for college the old-fashioned way, by saving. We think 529 college plans are the best way to save, but they're not perfect. They're not the only way. Financial planner and teacher Rob West has the skinny on 529 plans for us today. Then Rob takes your calls and questions at 800-525-7000. Write it down on your college-ruled notebook, 800-525-7000. I'm Steve Moore. Good to have you along for today's edition of MoneyWise. Well, Rob, it seems hardly a day goes by that we don't talk about college 529 plans in one way or another, but let's pretend someone's hearing about them for the very first time. What exactly are they?
Well, they got their name because that's where they appear in the U.S. tax code in Section 529. They're a tax-advantaged investment vehicle that allows you to save for a child or a grandchild's education expenses with significant tax savings and other advantages, such as matching grant and scholarship opportunities. Despite that, only a very small percentage of families use 529 plans. There are actually two types of 529 plans, prepaid and the more conventional savings plans. With a prepaid plan, you purchase tuition credits at a particular school at today's rates, even though they'll be used years from now. Only 10 states still offer prepaid plans: Florida, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, and Washington. Now, with the more conventional savings plans, you invest in various things like mutual funds, and ideally they increase in value like any investment account. One more thing, we should probably stop calling them 529 college plans because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 introduced tax code where it was amended so that 529 plans can cover kindergarten through 12th grade tuition and other expenses at public, private, and religious schools up to $10,000 a year. So they're not just for college anymore.
Oh, see, you've been doing your homework. I'm impressed. All right, so let's start with the pros. What's so great about these 529 plans?
Well, money put into a 529 savings plan grows tax-free until it's withdrawn for qualified education expenses. And while it's similar, Steve, to a Roth IRA in that contributions are not deductible for federal income tax purposes, more than 30 states offer some kind of tax break. So depending on where you live, you could be eligible for state tax deductions or credits if you invest in a 529. Now, these plans also offer you some flexibility in case things change. So if one child doesn't use all of the money in the account, the beneficiary can usually be changed later to a different direct relative. In theory, a single account could survive for generations. Another nice feature, anyone can contribute, but it's usually better to have the account in the parent's name. There are also some potential financial aid advantages to a 529 plan. The FAFSA form, that is the free application for federal student aid, counts money held in 529 plans at a lower rate than money in other accounts. In other words, money in a 529 plan won't count against you as much as other assets when applying for financial aid.
Okay, let me go back a little bit here. Now, as a grandparent, also known as Gampa, can I start one of these? But then your recommendation is I put it in the name of the parents, don't keep it in the name of the grandparents? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think since you can contribute, it would be best to have it all in one account. Okay. Put it in the name of the parents of the child, but then you can absolutely contribute.
All right. Well, again, it sounds like a great plan for most people, but maybe not for everyone. Why is that?
Well, they can be restrictive. Once you open a 529 account and put money into it, you've committed the money for education. Withdraw the funds for anything else, and you'll get nailed with penalties and fees. Then also, what the regulations say are qualified educational expenses can be confusing. Some things you'd think would be covered aren't. For example, many community colleges don't include room and board in their totals for attending school. Because of that administrative quirk, 529 money can't be used to cover room and board at those schools. Then there can be more confusion in how you open and maintain your 529. Different options can result in higher fees. And finally, a 529 account opened by by a grandparent or a non-custodial guardian can have a greater negative impact on a student's financial aid status than one opened by a parent.
Okay.
Lastly, let me direct you to savingforcollege.com. That's my favorite website to evaluate the plan for you.
Savingforcollege.com. There you have it. Everything you ever wanted to know about 529 plans. We'll be back with your phone calls and questions after this.
Do you know if you have enough? Enough money? Enough house? Do you know how much is enough? If not, Ron Blue can help with his book, Master Your Money, a step-by-step plan for experiencing financial contentment. Learn how to save, invest, and give wisely, how to create a long-term financial plan, and how to get out of debt. You'll find it all in Master Your Money by Ron Blue. Available when you click the store button at moneywise.org.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't have had the procedure I needed without CHM's help sharing the bills. That letter from a member displays Christian Healthcare Ministry's purpose to glorify God and serve His people. CHM is the original non-insurance voluntary health cost-sharing ministry, enabling its members to share the cost of each other's medical bills. Call 800-791-6225 or visit chministries.org. You're listening to MoneyWise with Rob West. I'm Steve Moore. Our number is 800-525-7000. Incidentally, that number is available 24/7, so if you're busy and can't call right now, call later. Leave your name, your phone number, and briefly tell us your question, and one of our producers will call you back and put you on the front of the line or put you at the front of the line for one of our upcoming programs. 800-525-7000. Warner Robins, Georgia. Hey, Paul, thanks for holding. How can we help you?
Hey, guys. Hope y'all are having a good day.
We are.
Yes. Thanks, Paul.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Had a little bit of a probably longer question than most from what I have listened to you guys.
Right.
And there's also a lot of more or less unnecessary details for our time today, so that I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So here we go.
Maybe just talk really fast, Paul. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Ahead.
Gotcha. My brother-in-law is a worship minister, and he has a rather large family with several kids. And dilemma is that he and his wife bought a house in the area before he was in the ministry. It was definitely within their budget. All the wise counsel taken there. But when he joined the ministry, he took a pay cut and also has had kids since then. So the combination of those two things alone are probably the greatest struggle. Long story short, what the church is paying him now for his work in the ministry just isn't cutting it between normal everyday expenses and emergencies and house payment, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And he's gone to the senior pastor and let him know of these needs, but it's not really working out. Another problem that's compounding the situation is the church's use of insurance through another a big insurance company that's taking 20% or more is automatically taken out, to pay for that insurance that they can't really use, to be frank.
It's health insurance, Paul. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
For the family. Hopefully I'm painting a picture here for you.
Sure. So what's your question? How should he proceed from here?
Just have your thoughts on that. What are his options?
Yeah, well, a couple of high-level thoughts here for you, Paul, and then maybe some specifics related to your family member. First of all, I think it's obviously important that we pay pastors what they need according to some key principles that I think we find in Scripture, starting with this idea from Paul to Timothy, where he said the elders who are good leaders should be considered worthy of ample honorarium, especially those who work hard at preaching and teaching. The Scripture says, do not muzzle an ox while it's treading out in the grain, and the worker is worthy of his wages. And so clearly we need to pay our pastors, and many pastors are under extreme stress because they don't have adequate income to meet their financial obligations, and that's a real challenge. But I also think that it's incumbent upon somebody who goes into the ministry to understand that they're going to have to modify their lifestyle. In terms of how a church should approach this, I've served on several finance committees throughout my life, and what we always started with was looking at what the fair compensation was for a pastor, starting with the senior pastor by looking at the median income for those in the church, because you have to recognize, for instance, if you're in a very costly place in the country where it's expenses are high and therefore the median income is higher, then a church should, according to its ability, pay, I think, pastors starting with that median income for the families in the church, just as a rule of thumb. And then I think beyond that, for the rest of the staff, figuring out what is fair and customary. And there's a lot of resources today to figure that out in terms of salary surveys and looking at all of the different job titles and job descriptions within the church, and figuring out for a church of a similar size what is fair and customary, and including in that particular part of the country, and factoring in any additional cost of living based on where they're at. And so when you look at all of those things, the salary data and the median income in the church and other, what other churches are paying for all these positions, you can really arrive at something that would be fair and be able to take care of a family who is serving in full-time ministry inside the local church, and recognize that they're not going to earn as much as they perhaps could outside the church if they wanted to advance in their career and earn more money. And you still have to abide by biblical principles, which means if I'm going to take this job, I need to be able to make sure my lifestyle is in check so that I can live within my means and save and give and, plan for the future and have an emergency fund and make sure I'm paying off and getting out of debt over time and all of those things. And to the extent you can't, you have a decision to make, because I don't believe God would call you into a line of work that prevents you from honoring his principles with regard to how you manage your money. And so I think coming to your brother's situation here, or your family member, I think what he needs to really pray about is once he's presented the need to the pastor, which you said he's done, if there's not an ability to do more, then he has a choice, which is going to sound simplistic, but it's either, am I willing to modify my lifestyle to bring my expenses in line so I can honor what the Lord says about how I should manage his money, given that he's got a large family and I'm sure a lot of competing priorities for those resources, or do I need to perhaps pray about the Lord opening a door at a larger church who might have the ability to do more? Or does he need to get something else on the side? And all of that would need to be gauged in light of, can he still, be the head of the house and, do have the time to invest in his family and his walk with the Lord in addition to his work. So I think there's a number of factors here, but I'm glad to hear you say that he's presented this to the pastor. I think that's the starting point. Mm-hmm. And then I think beyond that, he's got to make a hard decision. Am I willing to perhaps sell the house and right-size the budget, or do I need to look elsewhere, either to a larger church, another church, or another form of work?
And Rob, I would wonder whether this is an ongoing budget situation because of the size of his family and other expenses, or might this be something that could be addressed by the church with a gift of some sort, a 1 or a 2-time financial gift to get him on even keel and back up to where he needs to be. Does the church have a budget, do they know exactly how much they can afford to pay? Maybe they hired an associate pastor when they couldn't really afford to, but the position needed to be filled. So I'll tell you what, Paul, those are great questions. We will pray that God gives you real wisdom here as you deal with this situation, and that God's grace and wisdom and compassion will be the element here that moves hearts and provides direction for the church. One last thing, and then we have to pause for a break. You mentioned health insurance. I'm not sure what they're paying, but there's a wonderful organization that we work with called Christian Healthcare Ministries. You'll find them online at CH Ministries. There's a very good chance that they could come in and provide the help that they need at far less than what they're currently paying. You might want to check them out, chministries.org. We'll be right back after this. Stay around.
Would you like your life to be infused with joy? Would you like to interject an eternal dimension into even the most ordinary day? Author Randy Alcorn says you can when you discover the Treasure Principle. In a concise, power-packed style, this newly revised and updated book offers a 6-step plan to finding the immediate pleasure and eternal rewards of the Treasure Principle. And once you discover it, life will never look the same. The Treasure Principle is available when you click the store button at moneywise.org.
How should we as Christians think about investing? What if we could invest our money in a way that aligns with what we believe? At Eventide, we believe it is possible to love God and love our neighbor in the very practice of investing. We design investments for performance and a better world so you can invest for the future with a sense of wholeness and purpose. We call this investing that makes the world rejoice. More information is available at investeventide.com.
Rob West is here taking calls at 800-525-7000. You can also send us an email, just a couple of lines, questions@moneywise.org. Let's go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And John, we know you've been holding a bit. We appreciate that. What's on your mind?
Hi, gentlemen. How's everything going?
Great.
Very good, John. Thanks for your call.
Good. I won't keep you long. I just have a question for you. My wife and I inherited about $300,000 after inheritance tax, and we owe about $270 on our home. We were wondering, should we just pay our home off?
Yeah. Do you have some other savings, John? I mean, I realize you'd have about $30,000 left over, but do you have some other savings?
I do have $100,000 saved. Plus, I own another home worth about $800,000 that's already paid for. There's no liens on it or anything like that.
Wow, phenomenal. Yeah, I love the idea of paying off the house. I think you're never going to regret that decision. In my view, your return is guaranteed according to the interest rate that's no longer there. And so there's a guaranteed return. But then there's the peace of mind factor that comes with that, the flexibility of knowing that you owe no man anything, and you have the ability to follow the leading of the Lord, whatever he might lead you to do. And just practically, you're going to free up a sum of money in the form of a mortgage payment that's no longer a part of your budget that can be redirected to other things, giving, additional savings, whatever it might be. And so I think, when you put these two things alongside one another and you say, should I go just drop that in the stock market and keep the mortgage, or should I pay off the debt? I just find that pursuing being debt-free and then investing after that, if you have the ability to do it like you do, is absolutely the right decision. Now, for somebody who's not in that place, who says, I'm just struggling to, put my 15% away to retirement and keep my emergency fund funded and do my giving and pay all the bills and, kids in school and sports and, all of these things, I get it. We pay the mortgage off over time, and I would call that permissible debt because that's an asset that should, over time, increase in value, and it's your home. But given the ability to do it, I'd say absolutely go for it. Don't look back, assuming you and your wife are in agreement, and I think you certainly will be pleased that you did.
Yeah, my wife is standing over me with a hammer right now, making sure you said the right thing.
So did we get the thumbs up from her?
Yeah, I got a happy wife. Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
I have one more quick one for you.
Yeah.
The other house is not a moneymaker. We just have a friend staying there. They pay the bill. But should we sell that house and invest the money or hold on to it?
Well, what do you see as the purpose of the home? If it's not there to produce income, I mean, it's an asset, right? So it's not where you live. So I don't look at my home as an investment, because the definition of an investment is it's there to accomplish a purpose. It has a return. It should be a good return. And when it accomplishes that purpose, or it can no longer satisfy the purpose, it's sold and replaced with another asset. That doesn't apply to your home, because that's where you live. Now, hopefully it increases in value over time, but with a piece of real estate, it's an investment. So what is the purpose of this investment if it's not generating an income?
I agree 100%. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I really appreciate you guys' time. God bless you guys. I love listening to you.
Thank you,
Thanks, John. Tell your wife hello. Lord bless you, buddy.
And we'll pray that she puts down the hammer.
Right.
You know what they say: happy wife, happy life, and fewer injuries, particularly if it's a claw hammer. So you guys need to work that out. And Rob, maybe we could work that into a financial Bible study at some point.
Sure, Steve.
The use of garage tools, as you discuss, as you go on one of your money dates, things like that, right. Perhaps. Lowell, Arkansas, and Zach, what's your question for Rob?
Yes, sir. I just had a quick question. So my wife and I have been married about 2 years, and I'm trying to figure out what we can do to best plan for financially our future. We're very faithful to the local church that I've been a part of for about 8 years. As far as tithing and all of that, we do have a CD fund that I think is roughly around $5,000 that we've just switched over to the next best interest rate. And I've only we together only have about $500 in debt, which is, for our age, I feel like is pretty decent.
Sure.
Is there anything that you can say that might help us in the long run as far as any kind of investments or any money choices that you would recommend?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'd have you do, Zach, is go to our website, moneywise.org, and just scroll down on the page to where it says Practicing Financial Freedom. And you'll see kind of our process, and every time that's going out, both recurring expenses as well as the non-recurring expenses that need to be saved for semi-annual expenses and so forth. You want to start giving, you want to repay all your credit card debt, and then you want to save for emergencies. While you have some credit card debt, start with a $1,500 emergency fund. But since you can probably pay that off pretty quickly, that roughly $500, let's start working toward 3 to 6 months expenses. Well, then you're ready to move to level 2. And that means you need a spending plan. You want to start giving on a percentage basis. We want to repay all debt, which you don't have any at that point. And then you want to start saving for retirement. So that's where I would focus in on with you here just for a moment. CDs at your age are not the best option for you. I would be looking to invest in the stock market in a well-diversified portfolio that's long-term, and I'd be taking advantage of tax deferral in the form of a retirement account. Do you have a 401k or 403b available to you at work?
Yes, sir. Yeah, both me and my wife both have a 401k where we work.
Okay, we're about out of time. Let me tell you this. The goal is to get up to 10 to 15% going into retirement. And if you do all those things, you'll be well on your way. Stay on the line. We'll talk to you for another second here off the air.
Zach, thanks very much.
Yes, sir.
Rob West, always a great pleasure, sir. Thank you for your time, and we'll come back tomorrow and do it again.
Very good, Steve. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Hey, want to read a good book on money? Then let me suggest the original good book, the Bible. There are over 2,300 verses in God's Word that reference money and possessions, so you know that the subject is important to God and therefore should be vital to us. Our partners at the American Bible Society agree, and that's why they've produced the Financial Stewardship Bible. You'll find God's Word addressing topics like buying, selling, saving, investing, and believe it or not, a whole lot more. This 1,300-page Bible includes a special study section that can be used in a group discussion and a 40-day devotional written by Howard Dayton for personal use. And you can see and order a copy when you visit us online at moneywise.org. Well, that's it for today. We're out of time. For Rob West, I'm Steve Moore. Thanks so much for listening. Please, we're hoping you'll come back and join us again next time.
MoneyWise is provided by MoneyWise Media and by listeners like you.
Hello, everyone. This is Claudio Relsano. Tune into my show, The Claudio Relsano Show, where I will be interviewing sports legends of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, as well as talking sports with some old friends. You can hear us on ClaudioRelsano.com. That's ClaudioReilsono.com. And now at 4 p.m. on Fridays and 9 a.m. on Mondays at the George Espenlaub Show on Facebook.
Oh, I'm slipping away, so don't